Omaha Steaks has built a huge reputation for itself as one of the predominant mail delivery meat companies in the United States. The company prides itself on providing Americans all across the nation with quality, Midwestern beef. Not only that, but they've got a wide selection of other meat products, snacks, and even some fancy schmancy wines. Having begun as a small mom-and-pop butcher shop in its namesake town, Omaha Steaks has since grown into a major meatpacking powerhouse, delivering steaks and other goods all across the lower 48 states. Sorry, Alaska and Hawaii, but you'll have to pay additional fees if you want some Omaha Steaks beef. Meal delivery services have their pros and cons, but it can be hard to resist those mouth-watering T-bones and porterhouses that Omaha Steaks is so well known for. Featuring popular content creators like Skara, William Lee, Pokimane, Imani Anis, lilypichu, Lily Key, Michael Reeves, Ivani, Yvonne Ng, and Disguised Toast, Jeremy Wong, Offline TV has become one of the most notable collaborative efforts in the YouTube gaming community. Just what do you need to know about Omaha Steaks, though, before jumping the gun on that $300 steakhouse extravaganza box? From their humble beginnings to how the company is expanding into new markets, this is the untold truth of Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks is a true rags-to-riches story. Believe it or not, Omaha Steaks hasn't always been the meat industry mainstay it is today. Though the names associated with the channel have changed since the group's inception, Offline TV's success has only continued to grow, boasting over 1.5 million subscribers on the group's collective YouTube channel. Though most of the content creators use Twitch, some members of Offline TV primarily use YouTube and even Facebook gaming. With the exception of Pokimane, who plans to move out, the Offline TV crew lives together in one large house. This way, everyone can efficiently work with each other to produce video content for the channel. The Omaha Steaks story begins not in Omaha, Nebraska, but actually in Riga, Latvia, during the 19th century. When the Simon family fled Latvia due to fervent antisemitism in the country, they eventually wound up in Omaha, where they were among the first waves of Jewish people to make their way into the city, according to Tablet magazine, a Jewish cultural magazine. The Simon family patriarch J.J. Simon and his son B.A. worked together as butchers, which was the family trade back in their European homeland, founding the Table Meat Supply Company in downtown Omaha in 1917. Offline TV's videos mostly offer viewers an opportunity to watch their favorite streamers and creators interact in an entertaining environment. With this in mind, the content is typically geared toward fun activities like games of hide and seek, unboxing videos, Pictionary matches, and other lighthearted games. But what goes on behind the scenes? How did the brand get started, and what sort of streaming shenanigans has the group been involved in? This is the untold truth of Offline TV. Offline TV started as a content house for Viners, while the group of Twitch streamers and YouTube personalities have been growing their channels and the Offline TV brand. The current roster is actually the second iteration of a content house created by William Skara Lee. Having come from the world of esports as a League of Legends player for Team Dignitas, Skara saw an opportunity to gather content creators to collaborate. He wasn't thinking of making a Twitch or YouTube content house. The company grew in popularity among local Omahans, and eventually changed its name to Omaha Steaks in 1966 as the company expanded out to sell their product in other states via the Union Pacific Railroad. More than 100 years after Omaha Steaks' first inception as a company, the food delivery service has grown all across the nation, raking in around $500 million in revenue, as Tablet reported back in 2017. According to an interview with Invin Global, Skara had a different goal in mind, becoming the next big Viners with housemates based Una and Fragnatic. This dream never materialized, but Skara learned from the experience. Skara turned his original idea into something bigger and better. We failed so hard there that the only way to get better was to double down and try it with this new house with twice as many people, Skara divulged. According to the Omaha Steaks website, the company has become the country's largest direct response marketer of beef and gourmet food. This is how Offline TV actually happened. Offline TV was a big financial risk. It turns out creating a content house with high-end computers and video equipment located in the Los Angeles area isn't exactly a cheap endeavor. Talk about fulfilling the American dream. For 5 generations, Omaha Steaks has been a family business in the company's century-long history. Omaha Steaks has remained a Simon family enterprise. The current CEO and owner, Bruce Simon, is the great-great-grandson of Omaha Steaks founder J.J. In fact, the home for offline TV was explicitly chosen by Skara due to its amenities. Talking about the house with Inven Global, he explained, "When we were setting this whole thing up, I made sure that we all had individual bedrooms and bathrooms. Which is why it is so expensive. To accomplish this, Skara's house hunt took him to Beverly Hills." Even after the channel had been in operation for 12 months, the company struggled to earn back its initial expenses. Skara described offline TV as a money sink. Despite not breaking even within the first year, he was able to look on the bright side. "I was told early in my career that the best thing to do is to invest in myself. Instead of investing in something financial, you should invest in your personal self." Luckily, Skara's fortunes took a turn for the better. Simon. According to a late 2019 episode of the Offline TV podcast, Skara has been in a much stronger financial situation since teamfight tactics took off. Skara didn't think offline TV would last during a segment in which the offline TV crew tested their friendships by asking each other personal questions. Skara was asked if he initially thought offline TV would last for as long as it had. "I did not know, I had no expectations for offline TV, lengthwise," Skara responded after a pause. Simon has grown up in the family business and used to accompany his father to the plant as a child before working there during summer breaks from high school and college. "I thought it would last, like, a couple years. I just wasn't sure how many." The follow-up question was also revealing, probing to see if Skara had ever had a moment where he thought the whole experiment would come to a sudden end. This made Bruce Simon a natural choice to step into the position, as he had served various other positions within the company until 1994, when he became president and CEO. Unlike other meat industry giants like Tyson Foods and Oscar Mayer, Omaha Steaks remains a privately owned company, meaning that investors cannot purchase shares of Omaha Steaks. While going public is typically looked at as a huge accomplishment for any major company, remaining a private, family-owned business has allowed the company to focus more on its long-term strategies, rather than constantly worrying about quarterly earnings. The Omaha Steaks inventory has expanded beyond just beef products. The name Omaha Steaks is, admittedly, quite a bit misleading. Skara said, "Yeah, like 4 different times, like 8 different times." While on the topic of offline TV coming to a close, Skara continued, saying he worries about the future of the group often, even when the issues they're facing are admittedly minor. "I guess I am a little bit surprised we've lasted this long," he concluded. Offline TV members have left for a variety of reasons. It's not uncommon for large teams of any kind to experience some amount of turnover. After Offline TV's first season of content, co-founder Chris Chan stepped down from his role as business manager. He was replaced by Edison Park, who later announced in April 2019 that he was leaving the Offline TV crew to focus on his own streaming career. Other members left for more logistical reasons. While beef might be what comes to mind when you first hear the company's name, you might be surprised to find that you can actually get a much wider range of specialty products. Poke Lulz was unable to continue working with the group after failing to obtain a visa. In the 1960s, Omaha Steaks began expanding its catalog from only offering steaks to also include premium cuts of pork, poultry, and seafood. Without one, the Canadian content creator couldn't stay in the U.S. Since then, they've added an even more extensive range of products to the menu, as the company's delivery services have become much more widespread. While steaks are still the prime cut of meat at Omaha Steaks, you can actually purchase a huge range of products besides their signature beef as well, from Polish-style kielbasa to hearty wild halibut fillets. They've even got an expansive set of accoutrements to serve alongside the main course, including charcuteries and potato-based side dishes, as well as some decadent wines. Perfect for your next steak dinner. Or your next kielbasa dinner. Or your next halibut dinner. Dry ice plays a key role with Omaha Steaks. Ever wonder how Omaha Steaks manages to keep their products fresh, even while they're shipping them all the way across the country? As Dr. Yuling Shang wrote in Laurie's Meat Science, raw meat is one of the most shelf-unstable food materials due to its abundance in nutrients ideally suited for microorganisms.
This means that transporting uncooked steak products from state to state and sometimes country to country takes a lot of care. When the company began its mail-order operations in 1952, they settled on using wax-lined cartons filled with dry ice to keep the meat cool, essentially mimicking a refrigerator. Similarly, original member-based Yuna didn't live with the rest of offline TV, making it hard for him to be involved in many spur-of-the-moment videos. This was before polystyrene shipping containers and vacuum packaging had become especially widespread commercial technology, you see. As polystyrene and vacuum packaging became more popular and mainstream, Omaha Steaks ditched the wax-lined containers and began using those, in conjunction with dry ice as the means of keeping the meat cool. Vacuum packaging, combined with the dry ice, ensures that the meat has no exposure to air, and thus, bacteria, while the dry ice keeps the temperature down low without requiring any electricity. Omaha Steaks has expanded into the pet food market. Does your dog whine and beg every time you throw a steak on the grill? Next time you stock up on some Omaha Steaks, you might want to consider grabbing some of their signature dog treats, which the company added to their inventory just around 17 years ago. As the New York Times reported in 2004, customers were constantly telling the company's management that they were feeding scraps from their Omaha Steaks products to their dogs and cats. Eventually, the company gave in and decided to capitalize on their popularity with pets and began making dog treats themselves in 2003. Now, these pet treats aren't some downgraded, poor quality meat scraps left over from the higher quality cuts of meat meant for humans. As the former owner of the company Todd Simon told the New York Times, "We're basically using the exact same product for humans without the high sodium content and some other spices." According to the Times, the company's dog treats very closely resemble Omaha Steaks' trademark beef jerky product, minus all the salt. A little goes a long way at Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks is quite well known for its lavish and pricey boxes of food. For example, some of these boxes, like their gourmet stock-up package, which features filet mignon, sirloin, chicken breast, and many, many more meats and side dishes, will cost you a couple of $100s. As a result, Yuna and Offline TV eventually decided to move in separate directions. Possibly the most contentious departure from the group was that of Albert Slately Musical Chong, who dated long-time Offline TV member lilypichu. Chong publicly apologized and admitted to cheating on Lily via Twitlonger on November. While these are great deals for doomsday preppers, chances are, you don't need to be spending that much on some fancy meat that you probably can't get rid of fast enough. That said, Omaha Steaks has plenty of more reasonable packages for the everyday diner. As Business Insider reported in 2018, $20 can actually go a long way over at Omaha Steaks. For starters, it's hard not to find at least a couple of promotional sales on their website. But also, you can typically grab a pack of 8 sausages, from Polish-style kielbasa to classic beef franks, for around, and a lot of times, just below, $20. The same goes for certain cuts of beef, like their tenderloin tips. But what's the point of a cheap steak if it doesn't taste any good? As Business Insider reported, the quality of what you get at Omaha Steaks typically surpasses that of what you can find in your local supermarket. If you've got the extra cash to spare and want to go to a local butcher or steakhouse, then, of course, you can't beat that, but Omaha Steaks might just be the next best thing. Omaha Steaks got in trouble for violating telemarketing laws. Perhaps you've gotten a call or two from a robocaller at Omaha Steaks trying to sell us on their holiday gift box special that's stuffed to the brim with gourmet hamburgers and tri-tips galore. 2019, simultaneously announcing his indefinite hiatus from content creation to reflect and spend some time alone. Offline TV hosts a podcast in addition to its main YouTube channel for a group of people who spend a large portion of their careers sitting in front of a camera. It seems like podcasting would be well within their skill set. So, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that the Offline TV members got together to make their own house-wide podcast, culminating in a new YouTube channel where the show is hosted. Episodes of Offline TV podcast usually feature 4 members of the house speaking on a broad range of topics, including the origins of offline TV, how much money each content creator makes, or what life is like in the content house. Well, in 2014, one man in Gresham, Oregon, had received just one call too many, as the Oregonian reported. According to the Oregonian, Michael Hetherington received 10 unwarranted calls to his cell phone from the company over the course of just a little over a month in 2013. Some episodes get a bit more serious and delve into more advanced topics, such as the business aspects of Twitch and the mental health challenges associated with streaming. Similarly, the crew sometimes takes on hot topics, like a June 2020 episode centered around the Black Lives Matter movement. Offline TV ran a 6-episode Dungeons & Dragons campaign in March 2019. Offline TV posted the first video in its Dungeons & Dragons series, Offline TV Odyssey. The show included the main house members playing with Offline TV's creative director Josh Kim as their dungeon master. Hetherington did some research on laws surrounding telemarketing and realized that the company could be breaching the Telephone Consumer Protection Act of 1991. 16-bit animated sprites accompany the action throughout each video, and there's even an opening animation complete with an original theme song. The act essentially states that companies aren't allowed to call customers without their permission, nor can they use automated programs to dial up random numbers, with added emphasis in regards to protecting cell phone numbers. For their first adventure, the group played through the Lost Mine of Phandelver, a pre-made Dungeons & Dragons adventure module designed for Level 1 characters. Other than lilypichu and Disguised Toast, most of the Offline TV crew didn't have much experience with the game before sitting down to record the series. This is exactly what Omaha Steaks was doing when they called Hetherington those 10 times, and he filed a lawsuit against them in 2014. The lawsuit grew into a wider class action suit and was eventually settled about 2 years later in 2016, when the company had to shell out $5 million to customers they'd called in violation of the TCPA. In Episode 1, part of the group revealed they had previously sat down for an 8-hour session of D&D that never released because Fed lost the video footage. This lost campaign was the first and only foray for several Offline TV members into the world of Dungeons & Dragons before this new series. The series ultimately lasted 6 episodes before the adventure came to a close. The final episode ended with the message, "Stay tuned for an upcoming announcement on next season." So, it's not entirely impossible that you'll see more Offline TV Odyssey in the future. The Offline TV house got searched by police on stream, though some streamers may surprise their audience with special appearances on their streams. Offline TV hosted a special guest in June 2020 that even Skara didn't know about beforehand. During his June 18 stream, Skara was interrupted by a sudden knock on his bedroom door. According to Top Class Actions, a website investigating various class action suits across the country, customers began receiving checks from Omaha Steaks for around $40 in December 2016. Omaha Steaks ran into trouble over their website. When you hear about the Americans with Disabilities Act, it's usually in reference to physical entities, things like wheelchair ramps, parking spots, or restroom accessibility. But one little-known fact about the ADA is that websites also have a vague set of rules they must follow in order to be in compliance with the Act. Some advocacy groups have been known to take businesses to court if their websites aren't easily accessible for blind users. However, because these rules aren't quite set in stone, the ADA was enacted years before the Internet had become a major facet of American life. These cases are often gauged on a case-by-case basis. C. If a business's website isn't rendered properly so that it can be easily read using text-to-speech software, that essentially leaves the website useless and inaccessible for someone who's visually impaired or blind. The Omaha World Herald reported in 2017, that the advocacy group Access Now had partnered with 3 blind would-be customers to sue Omaha Steaks for a number of accessibility issues with their website. The company, however, claimed that it was planning on doing a complete renovation job on the website later in 2018 and did not want to update its website until it rolled out the full update. The lawsuit was terminated shortly after it began, as the ADA is relatively vague with regards to Internet compliance. Omaha Steaks has had retail stores for decades. You're probably most familiar with the Omaha Steaks website, or maybe even their mail catalogs. After all, it's primarily known as a delivery service. Following a knock on the door and a brief conversation, Skara removed his headset and promised he would be right back. What followed was a few minutes of an empty gaming chair. But it does have a handful of brick-and-mortar shops across the United States as well.
According to the Omaha World Herald, the first Omaha Steaks retail store opened up in the company's hometown in 1976, as a pilot for possible similar operations throughout the country. Prior to opening up shop in downtown Omaha, customers could only purchase Omaha Steaks through the mail or at select restaurants carrying their products. Though it was a pilot project, the company didn't really begin expanding its brick-and-mortar presence beyond Nebraska for nearly a decade. In 1985, the first retail shop outside of the Cornhusker State opened up in Houston, Texas. Much to the surprise of the stream's viewers, after about 4 minutes, a police officer walked through the room, gun in hand. Skara later confirmed the offline TV house had not been swatted as he originally suspected. He went on to explain that some of their cars had been broken into the night before, and the number of packages on their lawn led a Postmates driver to call the police, thinking that the house may have been robbed. The police came to make sure everyone was safe. Thankfully, the worst thing to come from this incident was Skara losing his teamfight tactics match. Lilypichu mysteriously lost control of her stream for 13 minutes during a livestream in early June 2020. Lilypichu's video cut out. Instead of Lily, viewers were treated to a random man watching Avatar: The Last Airbender while playing Sid Meier's Civilization VI and eating his dinner. It appeared Lily's stream had been hacked, though aside from the initial alleged hacking, the perpetrator did not maliciously violate Twitch's terms of service or otherwise make an attempt to get Lily's account suspended or banned. Instead, the man spent his 13 minutes of fame chilling out until Lily wrested back control of her stream. Nowadays, Texas has surpassed even Nebraska as the state with the most Omaha Steaks stores. The company has since opened up more than 75 locations across the nation, so if you're looking to get your hands on some Omaha Steaks, and you need them fast, you may just be able to drive on down to your nearest location to stock up for the next family cookout. Omaha Steaks sources their beef from farms in the Midwest. According to data from the National Agricultural Statistics Service, Nebraska has a grand total of 6.3 million cattle, meaning that bovines outnumber people in Nebraska by 3 to 1. The episode was brought to the attention of fellow offline TV member Fedmister, who was streaming at the time. Fed leapt out of his chair to tell Lily about her stream being overtaken. That's more cattle in the state than there are people in the entire city of Los Angeles. In fact, Nebraska is the state with the second highest cattle-to-people ratio. South Dakota is first, with about 4.5 cattle for every person in the state, so you know they take their beef seriously over there. At the end of the ordeal, Lily updated her fans via Twitter, letting them know the situation was resolved, though she remained in the dark over how the man had obtained her stream. According to Omaha Steaks, this beef-centric ethos is what's kept them in the state throughout their century-long history. This is the heart of beef country, and we love to share that quality with the rest of the country, reads a 2019 blog post on the company's website. The company prides itself on sourcing all of its beef from farms throughout the heartland of the United States, and not outsourcing anything from cheaper, far-away locations in South America or Australia. She was even able to make light of the situation, adding, "Dude was just vibing TBH and watching Airbender, he's got good taste." According to the company, all their steak products come from grass-fed, grain-finished beef, another factor that helps boost the quality of your Omaha Steaks box set. Omaha Steaks workers are considered essential during the COVID-19 crisis. When the COVID-19 outbreak hit the United States, a number of meat processing facilities all across the nation found themselves in the center of controversy. Workers at these plants were considered essential, and as such, many meat processing companies did not shut down their operations. According to a report from National Public Radio, most notable has been Tyson Foods, which, according to Business Insider, had been linked to around 4,500 COVID-19 cases nationwide. Omaha Steaks wasn't quite in the clear either. Per an April 2020 press release, Omaha Steaks continued operations at its facilities, and the company said it would be working to maintain social distancing measures at its facilities while also allowing all staff at its plants paid sick leave. As of May 2020, Omaha Steaks has not been linked to any COVID-19 cases like some of its competition, but the attitude among its workers has been primarily fear, as Eric Reeder, president of the union representing workers at both Omaha Steaks, Tyson, and Nestlé among others, told the Omaha World Herald.
Omaha Steaks has been giving back during the pandemic. Although it may seem like a cold and distant corporate entity, at its core, Omaha Steaks still adheres to the mom and pop ethos that its founder J.J. Simon fostered when he first made his way to the United States. And a big part of that is giving back to the Omaha community. The Simon family maintains close ties to the city, carrying out various acts of service throughout Omaha and its surrounding regions. The most recent example of that? The company's response to the COVID-19 outbreak. According to local news outlet NBC6, Omaha witnessed huge spikes in unemployment in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, during the week of April 4, 2020, more than 25,000 people filed for unemployment. For a bit of context, the city of Omaha has just a little less than 500,000 people. In response, the Omaha Downtown Improvement Group partnered up with local businesses, Omaha Steaks included, to provide meals for a drive-through food pantry to help out those who were struggling with unemployment as a result of the crisis via the Omaha World-Herald. While organizers were initially looking for discounted prices on food to give out, Omaha Steaks reportedly refused to accept a single cent for any of the hamburger or pork chops that the company doled out.